Welcome back everyone, and thank you for joining the channel today, where we explore the hidden stories behind everyday pocket change and reveal how ordinary coins can sometimes become extraordinary treasures. And in today's deep dive we are talking about one of the most fascinating and mysterious claims in modern numismatic storytelling. The legendary 1971 quarter dollar that is said to be worth an astonishing $13 million because of rare errors, minting mistakes, historical circumstances, and extraordinary possibilities that transform a simple coin into a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. So settle in and imagine holding a single quarter in your hand, a coin you might casually spend on a vending machine or toss into a jar. Yet this particular 1971 quarter stands at the center of an incredible narrative where tiny imperfections, subtle differences in metal composition, and nearly invisible design anomalies combine to create a value that rivals priceless works of art. Because to understand how a 1971 quarter could even be discussed in the same breath as multi-million-dollar collectibles, we first need to step back into the early 1970s, a time when the United States Mint was still adjusting to massive changes in coinage following the removal of silver from circulating quarters in 1965, a period marked by experimentation, high production pressure, and evolving mint technology. And in 1971 the quarter dollar was officially supposed to be struck in a copper nickel-clad composition with a pure copper core sandwiched between outer layers of copper-nickel alloy, bearing the familiar image of George Washington on the obverse and the eagle on the reverse. Yet during this era the mint was still handling leftover materials, experimental planchets, and transitional processes that opened the door to extraordinary mistakes. And one of the most valuable possibilities tied to a 1971 quarter is the accidental striking on a silver planchet, because although silver quarters were officially discontinued years earlier, leftover silver blanks, foreign coin planchets, or special experimental metal discs could have remained in mint facilities. And if a 1971 quarter were struck on a solid silver or high silver content planchet rather than the intended clad composition, the weight, sound, and intrinsic metal value would immediately set it apart. And such an error would already be worth tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars depending on condition and verification, but that alone would not explain a $13 million valuation. So collectors and storytellers point to the convergence of multiple extreme errors on a single coin, the kind of convergence that might happen only once in several generations. Because imagine a 1971 quarter struck on the wrong metal, then struck multiple times or struck off-center, and then struck with a misaligned die that created dramatic doubling or distortion in the lettering, date, and portrait. And when you add to that the possibility of a proof die being used accidentally for circulation strikes, or a die that was never meant to leave the testing phase, you begin to see how rarity compounds upon rarity. Since in numismatics value does not simply add up, it multiplies when multiple unique features coexist on one specimen. And one of the most talked about error possibilities is the double die obverse or reverse, where the die itself was misaligned during its creation, causing the design elements to appear doubled, sometimes dramatically, especially in the date 1971, the word liberty, or the motto "In God We Trust." And while many minor doubled dies exist and are worth modest premiums, an extreme doubled die that is sharp, bold, and combined with other anomalies could push a coin into legendary status. And then there is the idea of a wrong mint mark or missing mint mark anomaly. Because in 1971 quarters were produced at Philadelphia without a mint mark and at Denver with a D mint mark, and if a quarter were struck with an incorrect mint mark punch, a repunched mint mark in an unusual location, or even a mint mark intended for another denomination, the uniqueness would further elevate its importance. And some stories even speculate about a mule error, where the obverse of a quarter is paired with the reverse of a different denomination or an experimental reverse never approved for circulation, which would instantly place the coin among the rarest known U.S. mint errors. Because mules are among the most dramatic and sought-after mistakes in American coinage, and while documented quarter mules are extremely rare, the mere possibility fuels collector imagination and market excitement. And beyond design errors there are striking errors such as broad strikes without a retaining collar, which cause the coin to expand outward and distort the design, or off-metal strikes where the coin is struck on a planchet intended for a foreign coin or a different U.S. denomination, leading to incorrect diameter and weight. And if a 1971 quarter were struck on a planchet intended for a $50, dollar, or even a foreign silver coin, and then later authenticated by top grading services, the uniqueness could justify a value that climbs into the millions, especially if no comparable example exists, and condition plays a crucial role as well. Because a flawless or near-flawless example preserved in mint state or proof-like condition would be exponentially more valuable than a heavily worn specimen, since errors are most dramatic and visually striking when the surfaces are sharp and undamaged, and collectors are willing to pay enormous premiums for error coins that look as though they were frozen in time the moment they left the press. And then there is the historical narrative, because coins are not valued only for what they are, but for the story they tell. And a 1971 quarter discovered decades later in circulation, a bankroll, or a forgotten collection creates a romantic and compelling backstory that drives demand and fascination, especially if the discovery challenges what experts believed was possible within mint procedures, and some speculative valuations also factor in the idea of a unique test strike or experimental piece, perhaps created during metallurgical testing or machinery calibration, never meant for public release. And if such a coin accidentally escaped the mint and later surfaced, it would occupy a gray area between pattern coins and error coins, a category that commands extraordinary attention and money. And when a coin is truly one of a kind, the market no longer follows price guides or auction records, because value becomes whatever a determined collector or institution is willing to pay. And in the realm of ultra-wealthy collectors, museums, and private foundations, spending millions to secure a singular artifact of American minting history is not unheard of, especially when that artifact symbolizes a pivotal era in coinage transition, and the year 1971 itself carries symbolic weight as a post-silver era date that represents the full embrace of clad coinage, making any silver or experimental anomaly from that year particularly ironic and historically significant, and metallurgical analysis plays a key role in separating fantasy from reality. Because a genuine $13 million coin would need to be thoroughly tested to confirm its composition, weight, density, and elemental makeup, often revealing unexpected ratios of silver, copper, nickel, or even trace elements that link it to experimental alloys, and advanced imaging could reveal die markers, strike patterns, and tool marks that trace the coin back to specific presses or production phases, further strengthening its authenticity and narrative. And the role of professional grading services cannot be overstated, because without third-party authentication from respected authorities, even the most dramatic error remains a curiosity rather than a treasure. But once encapsulated and certified with detailed attribution, the coin becomes a tangible, tradable asset recognized across the numismatic world, and the psychological impact of a price like $13 million also fuels media attention, which in turn increases perceived value, because headlines attract new collectors, investors, and speculators who see rare coins not just as hobbies but as alternative investments. And when demand collides with absolute scarcity, prices can reach astonishing heights. And it is also worth noting that many stories about million-dollar coins begin as rumors or exaggerated claims, but history has shown that seemingly impossible discoveries do happen, such as rare cents, nickels, and dollars that were once dismissed as myths before being authenticated and sold for record-breaking sums. And this keeps hope alive among collectors who carefully inspect every coin they encounter, knowing that the next legendary discovery could be hiding in plain sight. And the 1971 quarter fits perfectly into this culture of possibility, because it is common enough to be overlooked yet old enough to belong to a period of significant mint experimentation, making it fertile ground for extraordinary anomalies. And the idea that a $13 million quarter could still be out there taps into the universal thrill of treasure hunting. The belief that life-changing value can emerge from the most ordinary objects, and whether such a coin currently resides in a private vault, a museum collection, or an unassuming drawer, the story itself inspires curiosity and careful observation, encouraging people to weigh their coins, listen to their ring, examine their edges for silver, look for doubling and misalignment. Next, 1973 quarter dollar. Today on the channel where we uncover the hidden secrets of everyday money and reveal how the smallest details can turn ordinary pocket change into extraordinary treasure. And today we are diving deep into one of the most talked about and intriguing stories in modern coin lore, the legendary 1973 quarter dollar that is rumored, discussed, and imagined to be worth an incredible $12 million due to a rare and almost unbelievable combination of minting errors, production mistakes, historical circumstances, and extraordinary possibilities, a story that captures the imagination of collectors, treasure hunters, and curious minds alike, because at first glance the 1973 quarter looks completely ordinary, a coin that millions of people have handled, spent, and ignored over the decades, yet under the right conditions, with the right anomalies present, this seemingly common coin can transform into a once-in-a-lifetime discovery, and to understand how this is even possible we must travel back to the early 1970s, a transformative era for United States coinage when the mint was still navigating the aftermath of removing silver from circulating coins, grappling with new clad compositions, higher production demands, evolving machinery, and human error under pressure, all of which created a perfect storm for rare and dramatic mistakes. Because by 1973 the quarter dollar was officially supposed to be made of a copper-nickel clad composition with an inner core of pure copper sandwiched between two outer layers of copper-nickel alloy, featuring George Washington's portrait on the obverse and the heraldic eagle on the reverse, struck at the Philadelphia Mint without a mint mark and at the Denver Mint with a D mint mark, yet despite standardized specifications, the reality of mass production meant that errors could and did slip through. And it is within these errors that extraordinary value is born, and one of the most significant and valuable possibilities associated with a 1973 quarter is an off-metal strike, particularly one struck on a silver planchet or an experimental alloy planchet, because although silver quarters were officially discontinued for circulation years earlier, leftover silver blanks, foreign coin planchets, or experimental test blanks could still have been present in mint facilities. And if a 1973 quarter were accidentally struck on a silver planchet, its weight, sound, edge appearance, and metal composition would immediately set it apart from normal clad quarters, and such an error alone would already place the coin into elite territory, but when combined with other dramatic errors the value can skyrocket into the realm of millions, especially if the coin is unique or one of only a handful known, and collectors place enormous importance on uniqueness, because in numismatics rarity is king, and absolute rarity, where no comparable example exists, creates a situation where the market is defined not by price guides but by desire and competition among elite buyers, and beyond wrong metal strikes there is the possibility of extreme double die errors, where the die used to strike the coin was misaligned during its creation, causing strong and clearly visible doubling on design elements such as the date 1973, the word liberty, or the motto "In God We Trust." And while minor doubling is relatively common and often dismissed, a bold and dramatic double die that is instantly visible to the naked eye is a completely different story, especially when paired with other anomalies, and some theories even suggest the possibility of a proof die being mistakenly used to strike circulation coins, resulting in unusually sharp details, mirrored fields, and frosted devices, a combination that would be extraordinarily rare and visually stunning. And then there are striking errors that alter the very shape and appearance of the coin, such as off-center strikes where part of the design is missing because the planchet was not properly aligned during striking, or broad strikes where the coin was struck without a retaining collar, causing it to spread outward and distort the design. And while many off-center and broad-struck coins exist, an extreme example with additional errors present could become truly legendary. And another fascinating possibility is a mule error, one of the rarest and most valuable types of mint mistakes, where the obverse of one coin is paired with the reverse of a different denomination or an experimental reverse never approved for circulation. And although quarter mules are exceptionally rare, the existence of even one confirmed example would rewrite numismatic history and justify an astronomical valuation, because mule errors represent a fundamental breakdown in minting procedures. And collectors prize them not just for rarity but for what they reveal about the minting process itself. And then there are mint mark anomalies, such as missing mint marks where one should be present, repunched mint marks with dramatic doubling or shifting, or mint marks placed in incorrect locations. And while some of these errors are modestly valuable on their own, in combination with other major anomalies they add layers of intrigue and uniqueness. And planchet errors also play a crucial role in the story of a $12,001,973 quarter, because planchets that are improperly prepared can result in lamination errors where layers of metal peel or flake. Away, clipped planchets where part of the metal disc is missing due to miscutting, or even split planchets where the coin separates into layers, and again while these errors are known, an extreme example paired with wrong metal composition or double dies would be extraordinary, and condition cannot be overstated, because even the rarest error loses much of its potential value if it is heavily worn or damaged. And a pristine or near pristine example preserved in mint state condition, with full luster and minimal contact marks, would be exponentially more valuable, especially because error coins are most visually dramatic when their surfaces are sharp and undisturbed, and the idea of a 1973 quarter surviving decades in such condition adds to the mystique, and discovery stories play a powerful role in valuation as well, because coins found in circulation, bank rolls, estate collections, or forgotten jars carry a romance that appeals deeply to collectors, reinforcing the idea that treasures can still be hiding in plain sight, and the 1973 quarter is particularly compelling because it is common enough to be overlooked, meaning a truly extraordinary example could easily pass through many hands before being recognized, and professional authentication is the turning point where legend becomes reality. Because a coin rumored to be worth millions must undergo rigorous examination by top-tier grading and authentication services, including precise weight measurement, metallurgical analysis, microscopic examination of die markers, and comparison to known minting records, and when such a coin is certified with detailed attribution listing multiple major errors, it enters a completely different category of collectability, one that attracts not only traditional collectors but also investors, museums, and ultra-high net worth individuals who view rare coins as tangible pieces of history and alternative stores of value, and media attention further amplifies this effect, because headlines about a $12 million quarter capture the public imagination and draw new eyes to the hobby, increasing demand and competition, and history has shown that coins once thought impossible or mythical have emerged and shattered records, reinforcing the belief that extraordinary discoveries are still possible. And the early 1970s remain a fertile ground for such discoveries due to transitional processes, experimental practices, and the sheer scale of production that increase the likelihood of mistakes slipping through, and it is important to understand that valuations in the multi-million-dollar range are not assigned lightly. They reflect a convergence of extreme rarity, historical significance, visual impact, and market demand. And a hypothetical or real 1973 quarter valued at $12 million would likely represent a perfect storm of wrong metal composition, dramatic double dies, striking anomalies, exceptional condition, and a compelling discovery story, making it not just a coin but a cultural artifact. And this is why collectors are encouraged to carefully examine their coins, to weigh them, check their edges for signs of silver, listen to their ring, inspect the date and lettering for doubling, look for misalignment or unusual textures, because every great discovery begins with curiosity and attention to detail. And while most 1973 quarters will never be worth more than face value, the slim chance that one could possess extraordinary anomalies keeps the hunt alive, fueling discussion, speculation, and excitement within the numismatic community. And whether the legendary $12,001,973 quarter currently resides in a private collection, museum vault, or is still waiting to be discovered, its story serves as a powerful reminder that history, craftsmanship, error, and chance can collide in the smallest objects, transforming everyday money into priceless treasure. And that is what makes coin collecting not just a hobby but a journey into the unexpected, where even a simple quarter can carry a story worth millions. Next, 1985 D quarter dollar. Today on the channel where we explore the unbelievable stories hiding inside ordinary pocket change and uncover how small details can turn everyday coins into life-changing discoveries. And today's story is one that truly stretches the imagination as we dive into the legendary and endlessly discussed 1985 D quarter dollar. A coin that at first glance looks just like millions of others yet under extraordinary circumstances is believed to reach a staggering value of $11 million due to a rare convergence of minting errors, production mistakes, transitional anomalies, and fascinating possibilities that elevate it from spare change to numismatic legend. Because the beauty of this story lies in how normal it begins, with a coin struck during a time of massive production at the United States Mint, a period when efficiency, speed, and volume were prioritized to meet the needs of commerce. Yet behind the scenes human error, machine wear, experimental adjustments, and leftover materials quietly created the conditions for some of the most remarkable mistakes in modern coinage history, and the 1985 D-quarter sits right at the intersection of all these factors, making it one of the most intriguing candidates for extreme rarity and extraordinary value. Because to truly understand how an $11 million valuation can even be imagined, we must first step back into the mid-1980s, an era when the Denver Mint was producing enormous quantities of clad coinage using high-speed presses, copper-nickel-clad planchets, and increasingly automated systems, all of which increased efficiency but also raised the risk that subtle or even dramatic errors could pass through unnoticed, and the 1985 D-quarter was officially supposed to be struck on a copper-nickel-clad planchet consisting of a pure copper core sandwiched between two outer layers of copper-nickel alloy, featuring the familiar George Washington portrait on the obverse and the heraldic eagle on the reverse, with the D Mint mark indicating production at the Denver Mint. Yet within this standardized framework lies the potential for astonishing deviation, because one of the most valuable and dramatic possibilities associated with a legendary 1985 D-quarter is a wrong planchet strike, especially one involving silver or experimental metal. Since although silver quarters had been removed from circulation decades earlier, silver planchets, foreign silver blanks, or experimental alloy discs could still have been present in mint facilities for testing, storage, or error, and if a 1985 D-quarter were struck on a solid silver planchet or an unusual alloy with high silver content, the coin's weight, sound, edge appearance, and metal composition would immediately set it apart from normal clad quarters, and such an error alone would be worth a substantial sum. But when paired with other extreme anomalies, it enters the realm of the extraordinary, and collectors know that. Value in numismatics is not simply additive but exponential, meaning that each additional unique feature multiplies desirability and price, and beyond wrong metal composition there is the powerful possibility of extreme double die errors, where the die used to strike the coin was misaligned during its creation, causing bold and unmistakable doubling on design elements such as the date 1985, the word liberty, the motto "In God We Trust," or even Washington's profile itself, and while minor doubling is common and often misunderstood, a dramatic double die that can be seen clearly without magnification represents a completely different category of rarity, especially when such doubling is crisp, well-defined, and paired with other errors, and some theories even suggest that a proof die or experimental die may have been mistakenly used for circulation strikes during periods of adjustment or maintenance, resulting in coins with unusually sharp details, reflective fields, and frosted devices, a combination that would be breathtaking and nearly unheard of for a regular issue Denver Mint quarter. And then there are striking errors that alter the physical shape and presentation of the coin, such as off-center strikes where the planchet was not properly aligned during striking, leaving part of the design missing or distorted, or broad strikes where the retaining collar failed, allowing the metal to expand outward and warp the design. And while off-center and broad-struck coins are known, an extreme example combined with wrong metal composition or dramatic doubling would be exceptionally rare, and the list of possibilities continues with mule errors, among the most coveted mistakes in all of numismatics, where the obverse of a quarter is paired with the reverse of a different denomination or an experimental reverse never intended for circulation. And although quarter mules are extraordinarily rare, the discovery of even one confirmed example would instantly place it among the most important U.S. error coins ever found, justifying a multi-million-dollar valuation due to its singular nature and the insight it provides into minting breakdowns, and mint mark anomalies further add to the intrigue, because the 1985 D-quarter could theoretically display a missing D mint mark, a repunched mint mark with dramatic shifting, or even a misplaced mint mark in an unusual location. And while some mint mark errors are relatively modest on their own, when combined with other major anomalies they contribute to the layered uniqueness that defines legendary coins, and planchet preparation errors also play a significant role in the story of an $11 million quarter, including lamination errors where layers of metal peel or flake away due to bonding issues, clipped planchets caused by miscut metal strips, or split planchets where the coin separates into layers. And while these errors exist in the market, an extreme example paired with wrong metal composition, double dies, or striking anomalies would be breathtakingly rare, and condition is absolutely critical, because even the rarest error loses much of its potential value if it is heavily worn, damaged, or corroded, and a pristine or near pristine example preserved in mint state condition with full luster, sharp details, and minimal contact marks would command exponentially higher prices, especially since error coins are most visually dramatic when their surfaces are untouched and their anomalies are clearly visible, and the idea that such a coin could survive decades in circulation or storage without damage adds to the mystique and allure, and discovery stories themselves play a powerful role in valuation, because coins found in circulation, bank rolls, estate collections, or forgotten jars ignite the imagination and reinforce the belief that hidden treasures still exist in everyday life. And the 1985 D-quarter is particularly compelling because it is common enough to be overlooked, meaning a truly extraordinary example could easily pass through countless hands before being recognized, and professional authentication is the moment where speculation transforms into reality, because a coin rumored to be worth $11 million must undergo rigorous examination by respected grading and authentication services, including precise weight measurement, metallurgical analysis to determine exact composition, microscopic inspection of die markers and strike characteristics, and comparison with known mint records and documented errors, and once such a coin is certified with detailed attribution listing multiple major errors, it enters a rarefied realm of collectability that attracts not only traditional collectors but also investors, museums, and ultra-wealthy individuals who view rare coins as tangible assets and pieces of cultural history. And media attention amplifies this effect dramatically, because stories about multi-million-dollar quarters capture the public imagination and draw new participants into the hobby, increasing demand and competition for top-tier pieces, and history has shown time and again that coins once dismissed as rumors or myths have emerged and shattered records, reinforcing the idea that extraordinary discoveries are still possible, and the 1980s remain fertile ground for such discoveries due to high production volumes, evolving technology, and the inevitability of human and mechanical error, and it is important to understand that valuations in the multi-million-dollar range are not arbitrary, they reflect a perfect storm of extreme rarity, historical significance, visual impact, condition, and market demand, and a hypothetical or real 1985 D-quarter valued at $11 million would almost certainly represent an unprecedented combination of wrong metal composition, dramatic double dies, striking anomalies, mint mark irregularities, exceptional preservation, and a compelling discovery story, making it not just a coin but a symbol of possibility, and this is why collectors are encouraged to carefully examine their coins, to weigh them, check their edges for signs of silver, listen to their ring, inspect dates and lettering for doubling, and look closely for misalignment or unusual textures, because every legendary discovery begins with curiosity and attention to detail. And while the vast majority of 1985 D-quarters will never be worth more than face value, the slim chance that one could possess extraordinary anomalies keeps the hunt alive, fueling excitement, discussion, and dreams within the numismatic community, and whether the legendary $11,001,985 D-quarter currently rests in a private vault, a museum collection. Last 1991 $quarter coin. Today's episode takes us into one of the most talked about and imagination-fueling stories in modern numismatics, the legendary 1991 $quarter that under extraordinary circumstances is believed to be worth an astonishing $10 million due to a remarkable combination of minting errors, production mistakes, transitional anomalies, and rare possibilities that elevate it far beyond ordinary pocket change, because at first glance the 1991 Philadelphia quarter appears completely normal, a coin produced in massive numbers and circulated widely across the United States, handled by millions of people without a second thought, yet as history has shown time and again, it is often the most common coins that hide the most extraordinary secrets, especially when they are born during periods of high production, evolving mint technology, and subtle changes in quality control, all of which were very much in play during the early 1990s, and to truly understand how a $10 million valuation can even be discussed, we must step back into the context of the era, because by 1991 the United States Mint was striking quarters in copper-nickel-clad composition with a pure copper core, producing enormous quantities to meet the demands of commerce, relying heavily on automated systems, high-speed presses, and rapid die replacement schedules. A combination that increased efficiency but also quietly increased the risk of dramatic errors slipping through unnoticed, and the Philadelphia Mint, identified by the P Mint mark on quarters starting in 1980, was at the heart of this production scale, making the 1991 P quarter a perfect candidate for rare anomalies hiding in plain sight, because one of the most significant and valuable possibilities associated with a legendary 1991 P quarter is an off-metal or wrong Planchet strike, especially one involving silver or an experimental alloy, since although silver quarters had been out of circulation for decades, silver planchets, foreign coin blanks, or experimental test discs could still have been present in mint facilities for testing, calibration, or storage, and if a 1991 P quarter were accidentally struck on a silver planchet or an unusual alloy with unexpected metal content, its weight, sound, edge appearance, and overall feel would instantly set it apart from standard-clad quarters. And such an error alone would be worth a substantial amount, but when combined with other extreme anomalies it becomes the foundation for legendary value, and collectors understand that rarity in numismatics compounds, meaning each additional unique feature multiplies desirability rather than merely adding to it, and beyond wrong metal composition there is the powerful possibility of dramatic double die errors, where the die used to strike the coin was misaligned during its creation, resulting in bold, clearly visible doubling on elements such as the date 1991, the word liberty, the motto "In God We Trust," or even Washington's profile itself. And while minor machine doubling is common and often misunderstood, a true double die with crisp, separated doubling that can be seen without magnification represents a completely different class of rarity, especially when such doubling is strong and well preserved. And some theories suggest that transitional dies or experimental die setups during maintenance or calibration could have produced coins with unusually sharp or distorted features, creating visual effects rarely seen on standard circulation issues, and striking errors further add to the list of possibilities, including off-center strikes where the planchet was improperly aligned, resulting in missing or distorted portions of the design, broad strikes where the retaining collar failed and allowed the metal to spread outward, or multiple strikes where the coin was struck more than once with shifting between strikes, creating ghost-like overlapping images, and while each of these errors exists individually in the marketplace, an extreme example combined with wrong metal composition or double dies would be extraordinarily rare. And then there is the fascinating idea of a mule error, one of the rarest and most valuable categories of mint mistakes, where the obverse of a quarter is paired with the reverse of a different denomination or an experimental reverse not intended for circulation, and although quarter mules are exceptionally rare, the confirmation of even one 1991 P quarter mule would instantly place it among the most important U.S. error coins ever discovered, justifying evaluation in the multi-million-dollar range due to its singular nature and historical significance. And mint mark anomalies also contribute to the intrigue, because the P mint mark itself could be missing, doubled, repunched, or misplaced. And while minor mint mark errors are relatively common, a dramatic anomaly combined with other major errors would add another layer of uniqueness, and planchet preparation errors further deepen the story, including lamination flaws where layers of metal peel away due to bonding failures, clipped planchets caused by miscut metal strips, or split planchets where the coin separates into layers. And while these errors are known to collectors, an extreme example paired with wrong metal composition, double dies, or striking anomalies would be breathtakingly rare, and condition plays an absolutely critical role in determining value, because even the rarest error loses much of its potential worth if it is heavily worn, damaged, or corroded, and a pristine or near-pristine example preserved in mint state condition with full luster, sharp details, and minimal contact marks would command exponentially higher prices, especially since error coins are most visually dramatic when their anomalies are clearly visible and undisturbed, and the survival of such a coin over decades in exceptional condition only adds to its mystique. And discovery stories themselves often drive value just as much as the coin's physical attributes, because coins found unexpectedly in circulation, bank rolls, estate collections, or forgotten containers capture the imagination and reinforce the idea that hidden treasures still exist in everyday life. And the 1991 P quarter is particularly compelling because it is modern enough to still appear in circulation yet old enough to have been produced during a period of intense mint output. And technological transition, meaning a truly extraordinary example could have slipped through unnoticed and traveled widely before being recognized, and professional authentication is the moment where speculation transforms into reality, because a coin rumored to be worth $10 million must undergo rigorous examination by top-tier grading and authentication services, including precise weight measurement, metallurgical analysis to determine exact composition, microscopic study of die markers and strike characteristics, and comparison with known minting records and documented errors, and once such a coin is certified with detailed attribution listing multiple major errors, it enters an elite realm of collectability that attracts not only dedicated numismatists but also investors, museums, and ultra-wealthy individuals who view rare coins as tangible assets and cultural artifacts. And media attention amplifies this effect dramatically, because headlines about a $10 million quarter ignite public curiosity and draw new participants into the hobby, increasing demand and competition for top-tier error coins, and history has repeatedly shown that coins once dismissed as rumors or exaggerations have later emerged and shattered records, reinforcing the belief that extraordinary discoveries are still possible. And the early 1990s remain fertile ground for such finds due to high production volumes, evolving quality control standards, and the inevitable presence of human and mechanical error, and it is important to understand that valuations in the multi-million-dollar range are not assigned lightly. They reflect a perfect storm of extreme rarity, historical context, visual impact, preservation, and market demand. And a hypothetical or real 1991 P quarter valued at $10 million would almost certainly represent an unprecedented convergence of wrong metal composition, dramatic double dies, striking anomalies, mint mark irregularities, exceptional condition, and a compelling discovery story, making it not just a coin but a symbol of possibility. And this is why collectors are encouraged to carefully examine their change, to weigh coins, inspect edges for unusual coloration or signs of silver, listen to the ring when dropped, study dates and lettering for doubling, and look closely for misalignment or surface irregularities. Because every legendary discovery begins with curiosity and attention to detail, and while the vast majority of 1991 P quarters will never be worth more than face value, the slim chance that one could possess extraordinary anomalies keeps the hunt alive, fueling excitement, discussion, and dreams throughout the numismatic community. And whether the legendary $10,001,991 P quarter currently rests in a private vault, a museum collection, or is still waiting to be discovered in an ordinary place, its story reminds us that history, craftsmanship, error, and chance can intersect in the smallest objects, transforming everyday money into priceless treasure and turning a simple glance at pocket change into a journey filled with wonder, hope, and endless possibility.